Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to March's Show and Tell program of the New England Book Artists. We've got three wonderful members who are going to show you their work and share it with you and share their passions. And it's just going to be a great show. I'm happy that I scheduled these because I get to know people a little bit through this process, but it's the process itself that will get us all familiar with each other in these times when we can't meet in person. So Susan Porter will be first up of the three artists that we have: Susan Porter, Gail Smuda, and Alice Stan. Susan, I'm going to turn it over to you because no one wants to hear me talk. You go, girl.
Okay. Oh, good. You don't need to see me. That's better because I'm a little in the dark. I'm Susan Porter, and I consider myself more of a collage artist, I would say, than anything else. But back in the 1970s, I worked at the Children's Museum when it was in Jamaica Plain. And it was really an old-fashioned museum at that time. And I was on the team of people that developed kits to go out to classrooms. And we did bookmaking, paper making, and rubber stamps. And that was how I got hooked. I learned how to make, 5 different kinds of books, and I started there. And I just, it's always been a part of my work, even though I focus on other things as I go along. It's been quite a few years since this all started. But so, I'm a book artist, but I feel like collage and maybe printmaking and painting are in the background there. And that's probably true for all of us because we all do multiple things. So anyhow, this is starting differently than I expected, but it's okay. When my husband Charlie died in 2006, I really had, I needed a lot of help dealing with my grief. So I did a series of books about him and about our life. And a couple of those are what I'm going to show you now. So this that you're looking at on the screen, this is a Starbook. And so it's 3 layers. And really what it is, this is the box, it's in a box. And it's pictures of us from our 20s to our 60s. And I think 60s, yep. And it has pieces that were his sculptures because he was a wood carver. So it shows us, from the beginning of the book to the end, getting older. And it really helped me a lot to go through my grieving process. So these are all selections from that particular book. And I had help from a friend making my very first box when I made this book. So that was fun too. The next book that's coming up is another book about Charlie. And this is called Charlie's Rules for Carving. After he died, when I was going through things, in one of his journals, I found a little list, a little folded up list, and it said rules for carving. So, and it was so Charlie, it was very, like how you learn to do something. It was a series of steps and all of that. So I got inspired to make this book. I actually did it with wintergreen oil transfers. So I found some wonderful images from a book that he had. And I made this book that included all of the rules. So I didn't include them all here, but you can get an idea. It was his way of keeping himself on course as he learned how to do more wood carving. So it was nice. I did the cover on this with a hand cut stamp that I made myself on lacquer paper. So not a lot of different materials needed for this book, came together fairly easily, and I love it. So I had thought at one time maybe to make an edition, but then I said, yeah, I'll just save it for me. So what do I have coming up next?
Would you prefer the double layer piece, or would you prefer to go to kind of the overview from the beginning?
How about the journals? That looks, the blue.
This one?
Yeah. I know most of you know me or know my work as being very colorful. And, you know, every once in a while, I just have to challenge myself to try something different. So a lot of what happens with, these are my journals. I've been keeping, you know, I had diaries as a kid. They became journals. Then they became daily journals. And back in the, I would say the 1990s, I just got bored with white pages and decided that it was time to try some other things. So these three images from my blue book are a lot of prints that were chopped up and incorporated into my books. So often I'll add pieces so that they flap out and become wings or flaps. A lot of times I'll cut pieces out, I add pockets, and it's all just a way of keeping me interested in writing every day. So I don't know if you can see on this one, but on the left-hand side, the points there, that you can see the page behind it because it's got cutouts in it. So this was just a blue book. And then I also, I think coming next, this is the cover of my black book. And this is like my 59th journal of this type. So usually I wait to do the cover until the end because I just make a mess of the cover page. So this is the cover of my black journal. This one belongs to my sister now. And a few of the pages are included here if we want to go along. Journals. Yep, so you can see it's mostly black, but there's a few accents because I just can't help myself. And this book actually became much easier to do when I thought about adding gold. So there's a lot of pages in here that have just a little bit of gold to make it brighter. And the next one, this is the same book. This, I don't know if you can see, but on the top where the orange net is, that's a cutout. And, you know, it depends on what I'm doing on the page. If I'm just collaging it and writing, then I might slap on a pocket or cut out something that goes through to the next page. So, and this, don't ask me why I write like this. It's just what happened. There was really no, you know, philosophy behind, I think I'll write this way. It just kind of fit into what I did. So I paint the pages. And then sometimes I collage the pages or I might add some prints to it. Then I come back and I write on it. So this one I call Old Familiar because this is what I do with my scraps. I know a lot of us as artists, you know, you have these little pieces of paper that you can't bear to throw out. I save mine. So I have in a lot of my journal books, I have pieces like this that, you know, I just run out of space. So I have to put the scraps into something. So
have you been referencing quilting at all?
Yeah, I was a quilter. I was a quilter before I was a book artist.
I felt that, yeah.
Yeah, and scraps, you know, scraps, I can't throw things out. If they're small, if they're beautiful, I have to find a place for them. So, yeah. And then this one, I don't know if you can see, it says The Perps. So in Susan Marsh, you'll know about, there's another piece to this in another book. But at the beginning of the Me Too movement, well, I'm in another group called Kaleidoscope, which Susan Marsh is also part of. And one of the women for her collaborative book had the theme of feminism. So the Me Too movement came up and I had this extra picture of all of these guys left over from the other book. So I made a perps page in this journal.
15 years, less 10 years.
I don't have to identify them. I think you probably all know who they might be.
So Susan, the orange lines, those are threads?
That's actually, I don't know what to call it. It's a hemp web.
Okay.
And,
It's like a mesh.
had a whole bunch of it. I
Yeah.
use it for printing mostly, but this I just put it in there as part of the collage.
I really like the movement and the effect of the photography mixed in with the other stuff.
Yeah.
Very effective.
I use a lot of photographs in my books. I didn't particularly pick ones for today that do that, but I use a lot of family photos, you know, and people that I know in my books.
That hemp web, do you make that?
No, You know what? I went to
Oh, that's just-
Artists and Craftsman Supply
Hmm.
in Central Square, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, a couple of years back, and they had it on sale, and it was $2 for a roll of like 40 feet. So I bought all. If anybody wants any, I still have quite a bit, so.
You're the hoarder.
Um,
of-
No, actually, I moved from a house that I lived in for 40 years a couple of years ago, so I got rid of a whole lot of stuff. I only kept the stuff that I really like or I use in my classes. So that's about that. Now, this other book that we're going to look at is a whole other story.
Okay.
I was invited to submit a work to a show at the Hamel Gallery, and the theme of it was spells or magic. This was in 2012. And I'm very interested in cross-cultural things and things that are like a thread among different cultures. So for me, the idea of things that people use to ward off evil or as protective amulets and things like that are very interesting. So having worked at the Children's Museum all of those years ago, when their collection actually was marked with tags. This was way before, computerized stuff. So I used luggage tags for this, and each one, this is the front door. So I wanted to show that behind most of these tags, there are a couple of layers. And I'm going to show a couple of different views of this because it's a 3-part book. So the black is a layer that's behind the main layer, and that represents fear of the darkness, because I decided that fear of the darkness is one of the most universal and human feelings. So the front is really it represents 5 important symbols that people use in different cultures: the hand, knots, feathers, keys, and what's the other one? Oh, the snake. So that's kind of each one of the tags that's in the different sections of this book. And I think I have some images of them, are handwritten explanations of what the spell is or what the protection is that works against it. So Christina, could you move to the next one, and I'll say a little bit about, okay. So this is the main part without the fear of the darkness piece behind it. And you can tell it's really different. It doesn't have the complete feeling, the fullness of the fear, and then, the protection. So, and this is garden wire that I used. So it's very sturdy structure, and each section has some detail. This is the back. So these are rusty nails and some raffia, some of my old earrings, beads and cowrie shells and things like that. So, and this is the back of one of the tags, so you can see how the explanations were presented. And this is the front of the knots tag that explains. And I would love to tell you all about this, but I know I have limited amount of time. So what I did was I ended up doing, let me see. Let's show the pictures first. So this is another side of the knots part. And basically what I did not know is that there's a whole kind of symbolism about knots and how you rid yourself of things that you're trying to get rid of. And the wedding veil actually was an early way that people used to protect against the evil eye. And this little bag that's made out of net here, you're supposed to write your fears on something and put them in a little bag and tie it up. And that's supposed to keep them from having power over you. But then I noticed when I was reading about it that if that doesn't work, then you burn the whole thing. So there are different layers of protection that you can get. So you can see this book has a lot of different materials in it. I mean, I used so much, of things that I just had around the house. I was sick at the time, actually, that I was making this. So I had to use things that I already had. There's one more, I think one more. I guess we don't have the black ones. Okay, well, what there? Okay, so this is the back layer, and it doesn't photograph very well, but this is the fear of the darkness. So I had very sort of faded back lettering
Nice.
that says fear of the darkness. And it was, you know, a night sky in a forest and trying to create the feeling of being alone in the wilderness or whatever, and all the fears that people have. So at the end, I had these two pieces, and then I realized that if people in the exhibit wanted to look at what was written on the back of the tags for an explanation, the whole thing would fall apart at the end of the month because it would be too much interaction with the book. So I made this other book, and this has, and I have it here too that I can show you. I don't have the whole thing in photographs, but so this was, it's just all paper. It was painted paper and some raffia on the outside. And then on the inside, which is the next picture, you can see that it is, it's called A Small Museum of Protective Spells. Can you do one more picture, Christina? I think it's the next one down. Yeah. And this one I designed on the computer and I printed it out. And then I added the raffia on the inside is drawn. But basically in each section, like there's a section, an introduction, then each one of the protective symbols like hands, knots, the snake, feathers, and keys, it has sort of the explanation of how those work and where they came from in the different cultures. So it's kind of a complete piece. I really like this piece. Been around for a while, but I never get tired of looking at it and thinking about it. So that's kind of what I have to show today.
Gorgeous.
Really beautiful.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Susan.
Amazing, amazing work.
Thank you. You can tell I used all my old single earrings in that one. You know how you lose one and then you keep the old one knowing that there's something
Good
to do with
idea.
it.
Hey, Susan,
Can I have a
Susan,
quick?
this is Dennis. How did you do the writing in your journal?
That's
Those
what I wanted to
beautiful
ask.
White letters. They're so crisp and clear. They
Oh,
look-
thank you. It's just white gel pens.
Oh.
I like a particular brand. It's the Uniball gel pens.
Mhm.
The
But,
what kind of gel pens?
Uniball. It's
Oh, Uniball.
Stanford Uniball, yeah. And
But
they're the smoothest. So
I have a
really,
question about your writing, though. Are you just kind of freely writing without? Oh wow, I'm
Right.
so impressed. I'm so like I would be like scratching stuff out, and oh my gosh,
I don't go
amazing.
back very often and read them, once in a blue moon. If I'm
Yeah,
giving
that's true.
a book to somebody, I'll go back and read it, but.
Oh wow.
I was thinking about your handwriting as well, because I used to have good handwriting. And then I started block printing and going really, really fast. And now when I've tried to go back to longhand, I cannot understand my own handwriting.
Wow.
And so I'm a great admirer of your beautiful cursive.
Yeah.
Well, I
It's
have to
actually
say that
legible.
I also have a chicken scratch that I use, when I'm writing notes to myself and stuff, but that is what comes out when I write in my journals. So it's just
Wow.
in there somewhere. I don't know where it comes from, but
Amazing.
Beautiful.
Very inspiring. Very
thank you.
inspiring.
Thanks.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Any more questions for Susan?
I just have a comment. I don't know if Susan was going to see the little chats that we've been doing, but I created a course for the college where I teach, where Susan and I exhibited together, Cape Cod Community College, that I called Myths, Legends, and Symbols in Art. And one of the incarnations of the Virgin Mary is as Virgin of the Knots. She's entire of knots in life. And I was not familiar with that version of her. So anyway, I wanted to make sure that you knew that.
That's great. I don't think I did know that, Marie, but thanks.
I'll send you a slide of the image if I can find it. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Wow, wonderful. Oh, thank you, Susan, for sharing that.
Thank you.
The time and everything, and it was extraordinary. Your work is really extraordinary.
Wonderful, Susan.
Can't,
Much.
you have, do you have a website?
I do. Yep, it's,
Great. So we can,
I'll put it in the chat, okay? Is that the
okay,
easiest way to do it?
sure, that's super. We can see
Okay.
more of Susan's work on the website.
Okay.
I hope.
Susan also has this fabulous cabinet that she made that's at a gallery.
Oh, that's right. I
Which
forgot about
gallery
that.
is that? It's just stunning piece of work. It's a big wooden cabinet that's painted.
Piece
and
of furniture. Okay, great, yeah.
But it's filled with her artwork and it's
It's a
the whole universe. It's just gorgeous.
Well, the complexity of her work seems like it would kind of fill a whole cabinet. Yeah, there's a whole lot of layers of thought going on here. Yeah.
Is that on your
Fascinating.
webpage? Is that on your website, that cabinet?
It is, yeah, there's a
Oh,
couple of
goody.
views of it. It's at the Hamel Gallery in Quincy now, and it's called the Cabinet of Magical Dreams. So,
Susan.
Please
Susan
add that to the
teaches-
chat.
Susan does
Yes.
wonderful workshops.
oh, thanks,
Yes, she
Gail.
does.
Oh, yeah.
Workshops,
Where
terrific.
do you do your workshops?
Well, right now, nowhere, but I'm hoping that after we all get back out and moving around at the Elliott School, I usually
Yeah.
do.
Oh, okay.
Along with everybody else or many of the other folks.
Yeah. And you live in Quincy?
No, I live in Jamaica Plain.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Yep.
Gail and Susan then are.
Yep.
Oh yeah, we're definitely simpatico, compadres, neighbors.
Yes, we are,
Hi,
Susan.
Gail.
Hello.
I love Gail's work too. I hope she's coming up in one of the.
Yes, the
later.
next Gail, we have another Gail fixing to present, so we're
That's right.
excited.
Since you brought that up, we have programs through May. So we have 2 more sessions, March and April and May. So we have 6 more artists to see in this season, and then we'll begin in the fall again in September. And please get in contact with me, or I'll get in contact with you to sign up for a date. We're going to be changing the times so that new people can come in and join us. And I know it's going to maybe eliminate some people, but I hope over the years that as we change the time and do these series that we'll get to show a lot of work this way, because it's really, I don't know about you, but I think this is a blast.
I agree.
Carolyn,
So,
Carolyn, if you're recorded, can't people see it later when they have the time?
check out the website. We do have a YouTube channel, the NEBA's YouTube channel. I will be uploading this probably tomorrow morning. I make posts and I do the links on Facebook and Twitter. So we do put the word out there. This is number 4. So you could go back and review the previous meetings. They were much longer than what we're trying to strive for. So because they had a lot of conversation. We love conversation, but we're trying to streamline a little bit maybe to make it go a little quicker. I think people start to log off after a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So let's
move on to
Yeah.
Gail Tuda. Gail, am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yes, you are.
How about that? So, Gail, we know, is a fabulous bookmaker, but we're going to learn more about her. And so go right ahead, Gail.
Okay, how do I hit screen share and then hit my PowerPoint or my PowerPoint?
You are going to
first?
do exactly that.
All right. And why does it not want to do that? There it is. Okay.
Let's everyone go back to muted as well.
Okay.
Click on that green screen share.
Oh, I thought I had. Wait a second. Okay.
Here we go. Did it change?
Is it showing up all right?
No, it's not coming through. Are you clicking on the green screen share and then you get your own screen that you choose?
Does she need permission from the host?
Sure, go ahead, Mary.
Oh, I'm not the host.
I've already done that.
Oh, okay.
She has it. Yeah.
Do you have it or not?
Nope.
I've given it to you, but we don't see your share yet.
Let me hit the screen share again. Yes, no?
No. You'll
Oh, dear.
notice the change too when it happens.
Is it showing up?
Nope.
Not yet.
Are you sure I hit screen share first?
Yes, because you have to choose what you want to share.
Right. Okay, so I've just hit it again.
Double click on it.
Okay.
Are you seeing things that you choose from now?
Yes, I am.
Choose what you want, your
Full screen or your PowerPoint?
PowerPoint, your desktop.
I'm in my PowerPoint, but it's not showing up.
Uh-uh.
Oh dear. You might
Is
have
it
to go
on
on to
your
somebody else.
desktop?
I'm
You
sorry.
just you have to click on it.
What do I have to click on?
If you see a bunch of different little thumbnails, either click on the PowerPoint itself or desktop.
Oh, okay.
If it's open on your desktop, we can see it through that selection.
Yeah.
Desktop usually comes up. It's the first thing you see.
Is it showing up?
Nope.
No, you'll see it if it works.
Yeah, I think you have to do it in the right order. So pull it up on your desktop before you do the screen. Stop the screen share, pull it up on your desktop, have it big, then turn on the screen share and then double click on it. We should be okay.
See, once I know how to edit, none of this will ever be noticed. I gotta learn how to edit these videos so that we look all slick, like we really know what we're doing.
Christina, you can also pause and restart a recording and it'll be part of the same video as your recording. So if we hit moments like this, you can always pause it and restart it when we're ready. It's a little like in-camera
I'm
editing.
thrilled with that idea, but I tried it recently and ended up not coming back on right, and I did not get half of the meeting.
Oh, dear.
So
Okay.
it's a nice,
I don't know how to
it's a
do this, so
fantasy. I'm
how
sure
about
that cutting things out is probably very simple.
How
I
about
just haven't had time.
How about we skip to Alice right now, and Gail, I'm going to ask you to just kind of work with what you got. Once this gets closed out, maybe we'll be able to get you back in. Maybe it's gotten in a loop or something.
Do you want me to put the step-by-step instructions in the chat? Would that help?
Sure, Nancy.
Yeah, I
you.
just kicked over, I just retreated the hostship, so she can't do it now. I've kicked it over to Alice, and let's just take a little jump over, and then Carolyn, when we come back around, just say, introduce Gail like we were at the beginning. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Could I send the PowerPoint to somebody that could show it?
Oh, that's a great idea.
I don't want to be responsible for it. Somebody else can do
Okay.
it, and I can kick them to it. Who wants to try to do that? Okay, Nancer. Okay. Do you have Nancer? Put your email in there for her so that she can send that to you. Maybe is that how you're going to transmit it? Have you gotten your host invite and all? So you're ready, Alice?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay. Okay.
All right, here goes
Just
Alice.
go mute.
Our featured artist of this month. And so we're going to get a lot of Alice this month. Here you go. Tell us about yourself.
All right, well, let me kick up my screen share. All right. So, hi everyone. My name is Alice. I am a book artist, as we all are. Predominantly, I make totally, completely handmade books with my own materials and illustrations and text. Usually working in watercolor and in cut paper. Those are kind of my formats. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit in a slideshow and talk a little bit about how I got to here. And then I'm actually have a down shooter set up so I can show you guys some books in person, quote unquote, as it were. Like I said, my name is Alice. Hooray. So how did we get here? So when I was 7 years old, I told my mother that my dream job was to open a toy shop where I made all the toys by hand. And I guess we're not that far off at this point in my life. So growing up, I was a big reader. I spent a lot of time with books, a lot of time playing with books, which gave me a love for interactive books. And so these are some of my early endeavors from high school, not understanding what acidity was in paper yet, and making, poems that I thought were really deep and inspirational at the time. Then I went to Mass Art, which is where I still work and teach now. And I took a class with Suzanne Barnes. I took her book arts class, which is hosted through the illustration program. And I finally kind of found my footing in the department. I hadn't really known what I was doing. And once I had this tactile experience, I was like, wow, yes, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. So on the left is the first tunnel book I ever made in that class, which is probably the first book with content I ever officially made. And then on the right is the last book I made at Mass Art. So there's a little bit of an overlap between the two. Love those under the grass scenes. So once I graduated, it's just kind of what I kept doing. So like I said, I focus a lot on watercolor illustrations and paper illustrations, and my background in an illustration program really made me want to be a visual storyteller, using my own illustrations, not so much with text, but more with images and pictures. So this is a little drawing of my studio and all the many things I keep in it. You guys are looking at the press and the wall back there right now. It's just the second room in my apartment, also in JP. Nice. So this is where I do kind of all my work, and right now where I also currently do my job. So it's getting a little sick of these four walls, as I'm sure we all are. But so I just want to show you guys a little bit. For me, the process of making my work usually involves a lot of research, both reading research, as well as sketching and photo inspiration on the internet. And I'll do a lot of sketching in advance and then move into finals. So I love making boxes too, which I'll touch on a little bit more later. But for the most part, I spend, like I said, watercolor is a big one. And I really love painting architecture and nature in particular. So this piece was, the theme of the piece was love thy neighbor. And in this case, I decided to paint little houses from around the world. This is a very small book. When I show you guys my books on camera, you'll see by my hand, they are mostly pretty small. Most of them fit in the palm of your hand. So these are, each page is probably about 1.5 inches to 2 inches wide, I think. So again, like a lot of sketching, since I'm making each book by hand, I'm usually not reprinting my materials. I'm usually just putting original watercolor illustrations into a book. So I have to really plan it out accordingly before I put something I spent, 4 or 5 hours laboring over into a book. This is my Metamorphosis book, which is all about different cultures, deities, and folklore of changing people that change into animals and vice versa. And this was made into an accordion book where the panels could all be sort of interchanged into different forms and figures. I really love to work in accordion books. I think it's one of the most flexible and forgivable structures. So I also don't, since I'm making all this content by hand, I usually don't make a lot to fill a book. So I don't make a lot of sewn structures. So I have a tendency to focus on accordions. Plus, as you'll see a little later, I really like to work with pop-ups and movable structures. So accordion books are really great for that. again, little like, you know, some sketches before I move into a final. This was for the song Come Take a Trip in My Airship, if you know that one. My dad is a musician and he would sing it to us a lot as kids. So this was preparation for a Starbook that I made that illustrates different pages from the song. And this is nice because it combines my sort of love of cut paper and watercolor into one, with lots of little fun details. So this is probably one of the more recent pieces from this batch here. And this is a completely cut paper box and book, all done by hand. I don't use like a laser cutter or anything like that. And this is based on the Hans Christian Andersen story of the Nightingale. And so it's a story about an emperor in China who befriends a nightingale and loves his song. And then someone gives him a toy nightingale that makes sort of a cheap imitation. And when death comes to claim the emperor, he finds that the cheap song of the fake nightingale can't save him, but his friend, the real nightingale, returns and his song overpowers death and saves the emperor. So in this one, this is probably one of the most precise pieces I've ever made. And what I really love about cut paper and the layers that you can create with it is sort of the overlapping stories you can tell. So this, everything that's happening on the white level is the emperor and the two nightingales. And then on the level below it in the purple and the yellow paper are sort of these battles between the spirit of death and then sort of the beauty of nature overcoming death and saving the emperor's life. And as I was making this, a friend of mine, I was trying to figure out how to put it in a box. And a friend of mine was like, well, if you're basing this on Chinese architecture, then everything should slide open, which was a fun and interesting challenge. So all these levels, as you can see in this picture, the stacked box. So there's a base and two layers, and there are handles on the side so that when you pull it, each layer pulls out and then pulls open to the next level. So you can expand it open to a full panel, full triptych illustration, but at the same time, it closes up into one concise little box. So I also love box making and I love precision, which is weird because I hate math, but this past year I was taking a woodshop class because I wanted to learn to use power tools. And then of course the pandemic happened. So that kind of got shut down. So instead we were tasked with making some sort of container at home. And I continued the spirit of making something out of quote unquote wood and decided to make a tray for all of my bookbinding tools, a box for it, probably the most elaborate box I've made. And because I couldn't use wood, I decided that instead I would treat Tyvek as though it looked like wood. So everything I had to kind of gather from home. So I had these Tyvek envelopes that I cut up and wrapped, painted to look like wood. And then I built a case for everything. So this is mostly bookboard, Tyvek, book cloth. I used some leather straps. The little handles are made with a leather strap and like a brass brad you would use to seal close an envelope. The little elements that hold the tools are all like Velcroed in place. The sharps are all stored in wine corks to keep them and you safe. And then the whole thing folds up into a little box with a mini sort of wooden press that goes in the bottom shelf, a little space for paper and a tiny cutting mat, and then all the tools that live in the top of the box. So this was just like a fun craft challenge. I don't think I'd ever made something so complex before, but I really enjoyed it. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. And then I'm going to switch over to my camera.
These, while we're waiting, just want to say extraordinary work.
Thank you.
Lovely, joyful, precise. I love that too.
I think everyone should look at your zine in the NEBA zine swap post online, your kitty cat apartment complex, to see all the different references that you were just referring to in the form of the zine. It'd make you understand it in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, and this is so fun. Frances Hamilton direct messaged me, but she was my foundation year teacher at Mass Art, taught me drawing 1 and 2. So this is a fun full circle lap for everyone. Okay, so I'm actually not going to share my screen. What I'm going to do is switch cameras and just, can I spotlight myself now that I'm the host? I think so. Okay. Hold on. It's got to wake up though.
There's no signal.
No, I know. It's just the camera's being,
Okay.
let's see. Hold on. I tested it. Oh dear.
I don't know about you guys, but I could look at this illustration.
I actually didn't draw this. A friend of mine did, but it's a very perfect representation of myself.
Oh, it's adorable.
That's the outfit I used to just wear every day in the studio when we were students.
Scarf, how fashionable.
Still a great love of mine. Oh, this is so frustrating. I tested this right before I started. Plug it all back in real quick. I'm still here, sorry. All right. Hold on.
See, she's young, so we trust that she'll know how to do everything.
You know,
Am I right? Right?
I don't understand why if I press the power button, it doesn't turn on.
Well, we know
We're still getting the hang of all this, and it's no big deal, you know.
But I do have a backup plan if this doesn't.
We know you live in Jamaica Plain because we hear the sirens of the police.
Yes.
Perpetual music.
I thought that was going down my street in Plainville.
Wait, which street do you live on?
No, I'm in Plainville.
Oh, you're in Plain. I thought you said you live on Lakeville, and I was like, oh my God, me too.
Small world, right?
Right? Okay.
Yeah, so while we're in a limbo, are you back? Are you coming back? Excellent.
Yes, I'm going to join the Zoom with my phone, and then I can share that way.
See, she knows how to do everything.
I've been teaching this way for a year, and it's definitely helped. It definitely helped.
Yeah.
It's a crash course in.
Yeah, knowing that you can always resort to the cell phone if you have to is effective. I think I do pretty good with a handheld cell phone video feed. I'm surprised how effective it actually works. Yeah.
I Velcro my phone onto a stick to use that way, which helps.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do it handheld.
Okay, so here's my phone.
Your phone.
You can see under my chin. It's great. Everyone's favorite view of themselves, right?
That's right.
So, okay. It's not going to be quite as beautiful and seamless as it would have been otherwise, but that's okay.
Yeah, but if I can edit, this will be fantastic. I'm going to turn off and mute, and let's have a little pause and then get started.
All right. Great. So this is, I'll turn this way. So this is that Metamorphosis book that I showed you guys in the slideshow. And as you can see, this is my hand, right? So it's quite small. So like I mentioned, this one is very cool because the interchangeable pieces work to create different figures depending on how you adjust them. And it's just a really simple concertina spine that I then cut into so that each of those pages could be mobile on its own, separate from the rest of the piece. So, but it's cool. It's cool in pictures. I don't think people get a sense of the scale, so it's fun to see them.
And the
So
front icons are made how?
So these are all, I love doing indents. These are indents in the front, carved into the book board. And then it's just a piece of, just pieces of paper set into the indents to represent sort of the head, body, and feet, which is kind of the main component of each piece inside.
Nice.
So that's cool. This is one that's on the website. This is my flag book. Sorry, one-handed is a little funky, but this is my flag book of, this is an Irish song called The Cregan White Hare, which is about a very rascally rabbit that escapes the hunter and the dogs and gets home to take care of its young. This sort of turned into almost an animatic. It's cool when you kind of rock it back and forth, you can really sense the motion. But when it's all spread out, it has this nice feeling of movement. And with this one, what was fun is that I cut everything by hand again. So I have these really clean, sharp lines. But then to achieve the look of the grass or the ground itself, I was using like a torn edge to the paper so that it would give it a sense of like motion and direction.
It's got a flip book quality, which I love.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Flip books.
And again, this is like another indent into the cover.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So this is a book called The Big Reveal. And this is a fun one because you get to undress it, which I think is a lot of fun. So I punched holes and sewed these little clasps on to the front. And it's a whole experience, which I really like. So you get to undress it and open it up, sorry. And then, it was really hard to do with one hand, I apologize. And then you get to flip open the first layer and there are clothes and oh my goodness, what are you about to see? Something quite scandalous. So yeah, that's the big reveal. A little less fun to lace back up, but what are you gonna do? This, hold on. So this is one of the largest series I've kind of made. I tend to have a very short attention span, and I like to just make a thing and then be done with it. So I don't really addition my work or anything. I have an idea and I like to just run with it. And then once it's over, it's done. So this was fun because it was one of those monthly challenge projects. I do Month of Fear and Month of Love, which actually has inspired a lot of these books, keeps me on target, keeps me on track. And this was a challenge a week. And I decided to go for a sort of dollhouse theme. And each week of the month was a different room of the house. So I kind of had to finish the book. Otherwise the house would be incomplete. And I was going to build a box for it, but it's not really happening right now. So the first piece was, the whole theme was monsters. And each week it was monsters above, monsters below, something like that. So this was monsters above, and this was the ghosts that live in the attic. And again, these are all watercolor and gouache paintings. Usually I use gouache to make the white lines. So that was the attic, essentially. Then there was monsters below, which was the basement. And I tried on the front of each book to kind of give a hint of what was in the base or in each room. So I don't know if anyone can guess what's in the basement based on the hand popping out of the soil here. But the basement is zombies and corpses coming back to life. And again, like just really simple accordion books. Then was, can't remember what the Monsters Without maybe was the next one. And this was a little conservatory, untamed, little blood and skulls, you know, all around. So just a simple pop-up again. And then Monsters Within is a haunted portrait gallery. So this one has some pull tabs, which we'll see if I can do with one hand. Yeah. So like the painting.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Oh,
Totally love it.
Thanks. And then this one, let's see, let's see what I can do. This one, the little guy kind of runs between the two paintings like that.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, these ones are, there we go. These ones are a little hard to do with one hand. And again, these are all just like painted in watercolor and put together. I don't really bother to like reprint them.
Can you do the first pull tab?
The first one, the eyes.
Okay.
It doesn't look great, but here we go. He's like,
yeah, all right. Wow.
Oh man.
Great.
yeah.
Brilliant.
And then the last one was the sort of the house as the monster itself. So this one has chandeliers that kind of hang because it's the hall. Right? So they're on strings and they dangle. And then they're a little kind of like you know, you can peek in at the different
Like advent calendars.
Yeah, exactly. And then there are also some pull tabs in this one. This one's my favorite.
Ugh.
So that one's a mouth. We got some eyeballs, if I can get them. Eyeballs.
Wow.
We got a cryptic warning to run. Blood. And then I'm just going to show you guys one more, which is probably the most recent book that I made for Valentine's Day this year. I got a little burnt out, so I didn't work too hard on the covers, but I still did cut paper. So there's a paper airplane. So all cut paper and pull tabs for this one. So there's a lighthouse, and if anyone's versed in nautical flag code, so when you pull them, they have these little flags. Then there's.
You gonna spill the beans on the code?
I think this one says love and this one says XO.
Okay, cool.
Cute.
Yeah.
Thought it might be secret.
Oh no, I mean you could always look it up, but yeah.
Okay, cool.
Then there's you know, tin can phones. I think my thought here was kind of like love at a distance. So all the ways you can communicate without having to be close. And then mail, which is my favorite. Hold on, this one's a little sticky. So you get an envelope. And then on this side, sorry, these pop-ups are so hard to do with one hand. So you have mail on each. And then the last one is that letter from the first, that paper airplane from the first page. So, yeah. All right. I think that's it. I'm gonna leave this, come back over here.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Oh,
Amazing. Fantastic.
You must have a website, yes?
I do have a website. I am myname.com. Alice Dan, I'll put it in the chat. And I am going to be the featured artist for the month of April. And I promise that there'll be other different books
Yeah, it's nice to see the images that are actually presented on the website in your portfolio listing, because I never would have imagined that they were this precise, so tiny. I mean, they looked like they were just big books, and I thought they were cool, but like the miniaturized intimacy
Yeah.
and the precision of what you're doing is quite interesting to me. And I do love your sense of humor and your playfulness. Wow. Yeah,
Thank you.
very nice.
Yeah, if it doesn't make me laugh, then it's or if it doesn't make me happy, then it's no good.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's
Yeah, the
great.
House of Books, it was phenomenal. So much
Thank
fun.
you. Yeah, I really love that as a set. I keep trying to work on it to make it more. So I'm trying to build a box for it. But again, my short attention span, I'm like on to a new thing now.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we can't wait to see what you do in the future because these
thank you.
are wonderful.
Thank you.
Keep on keeping on.
That I will. That I will.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions for Alice? Or we're just all just so thrilled and happy in our souls now.
Good. That's the end result I want. And the books are happy to come out of the cabinet and get seen. So
yes.
thank you.
Alice, it's,
so nice.
it's great having positive subject matter. Fun and positive.
Yes, true.
So we are now going to go back to Gail. Let's see. Gail, did you get a chance to let Nancer take it over?
She wasn't able to get it because it's too big a file.
No, I have
Okay,
it.
so
I have
I'm
it.
gonna,
You do have it. Oh,
suggest I say
wonderful.
we try it one more time. Is that what we're going to do?
Christine, I think I have it.
You have it. Okay,
I
I'm going to
believe
make
so.
a post.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
So we're going to turn it over to Gail with her assistant, Nancer Beller. Hit it, Gail.
Wait. I have to turn it into a slideshow.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Yeah. I started off as a painter, which kind of goes back to the very first introduction with the first person, but I was a painter for about a decade. And it was interesting when I went to look for images, I discovered that this was the only card on which I have an image of a painting of mine when I was a member of Bromfield. All of my images are still on slides. So it's been a while. At any rate, what happened is at the end of the 80s, I ended up getting larger and larger in my paintings. And I had decided early on to try to get into exhibitions in all 50 states. And the paintings were getting way too large to ship. And so I sort of hit a lull, didn't know what I was going to do, took a book class, and that was it. I have always been an avid reader, so it just made sense to me. So the next slide, please. Okay, so I collect things, all kinds of objects, and this particular metal soap container just really spoke to me. And so I made a book from it. If you want to go to the next slide. And the way I did this was a friend had given me a very old ivory soap. I believe it was from the 1940s. And so I made a image of the cover and of the back of the bar of soap. And so it became ivory soap. Next slide. So the way this works is the top piece, which is the cover of the bar of soap, folds to the left, and the bottom image, the bottom book, folds to the right. And because of the pandemic and everything revolving around soap, this really spoke to me because of that. And you can see that there are holes in the pages of the book. And what I thought was that, number one, it was supposed to be the soap bubbles that did something to the problem, but by the same token, it denoted absence to me, that this is the lives that have been lost. in different families. And so it spoke in two directions to me, just the way the book unfolds. Next. I have a weird sense of humor, and so when I alter a book, I have been fortunate enough to find books that kind of apply in the first place. This one is, the book itself is The Five Little Peppers. And the minute I saw it, I knew, oh, that's just perfect. And so I sealed the book up and cut drawers into the book, 5, of course. Next. And so each of those little drawers holds a little book that tells you how to grow a different kind of pepper. So there are instructions for 5 little peppers. Next. This was a windfall that happens once in a while. I actually found this book in a library sale and it cost all of $1. And the minute I saw it, I knew what I wanted to do with it. It's about 3 inches thick, so it's quite a thick book. And of course, the Little Red Book of Chairman Mao, this is not a little red book. This is a very big book. But I wanted to cut the profile of Chairman Mao in the edges of the book. And at that time, I was working at Southern New Hampshire University, and the thing was, they were starting a makerspace. And so they had put a call out to all the professors to let them know if there was anything they could do. So I took this book into them and I said, you know, I cannot replace this. There's only one, but I want to cut the profile of Chairman Mao into the edge of the book. And they said, oh, that sounds like a great idea, but we don't want to do it on that book. And so they picked a book that they were going to trash to try it out, and they were able to cut it. And they said, it's going to take a little bit longer because it's such a thick book, but we can cut that into the edge of the book. So I had drawn out the profile of Chairman Mao. Next. And so this was the book they were going to trash, but being a person who saves everything, kind of a bit of a pack rat, this particular book obviously had another purpose, right? Because I have this profile cut into the edge of the book. And so I was doing a lot of work at that time on Frida Kahlo. And I thought, well, you know, one chubby guy's profile is pretty much the same as another chubby guy's profile. And so I thought, well, obviously this must be Diego Rivera. And so I did the book Diego with the leftover book. And, you know, I have no idea what the book really was. I just started in on it right away. Next. So doing a lot on Frida and having access to this makerspace, I did this book with, it's called Frida Folio because they're individual pages. The book itself is actually a round container. And so I took a whole stack of different kinds of papers to the makerspace and said, I have sketched out this lace collar because that reminded me so much of Frida Kahlo. And I said, can you cut it into these different papers? And they said, yes, but we don't know what's going to happen if the paper's really thin or, you know, if there are issues. I said, I don't care. Just cut in any that you can, and anything that doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's fine. So they found that they could cut it into just about anything. And you might notice, since I save everything, the edge of the book from Chairman Mao ended up once again standing in for Diego Rivera. Next.
We'll call him Chairman Diego.
Yeah, Chairman Diego, right, that guy. So this book, I do know the name of. It is Letters, and being the kind of person that loves to play with literal information, what I did with this is, next. I glued pages together and I gessoed those sections and I painted several layers of paint. And then I put the alphabet, the entire alphabet in. So you can imagine when people say, how long did that take you? I do not want to answer because this probably took about a year. I always work on 4 or 5 things at a time. So there's nothing that I could literally tell you how long it took. But one of the things in this particular book is that I also like the idea of letters as in written communication. And so I copied all the letters that I had written in that time period to different friends. So all of those letters were hand copied into this as one of the layers. Next. This is Library as Sanctuary 2, and there is a reason for it being 2. I had found several years ago this little container here in a store that carried dollhouse things. And the second I saw it, I knew what I wanted to do with it because I love little tiny miniature books. So I made books for the shelf and I created this piece. And there was an exhibition at the Center for Book Arts in New York City that I entered this in, and not paying too much attention, I had entered it in another exhibit. This one, which rarely happens incidentally, sold. And my surprise when I discovered I was in the second show. So what I did was I wrote to the people in the second exhibition and I said, I took a picture of what I created because I bought a second shelf, which was the last one they had, incidentally, and recreated it, but it wasn't exactly the same. So I said, it's not exactly the same. Kick me out, that's fine, or put it in, whatever you decide is absolutely fine. It was my mistake. And they said, oh, no, we'd love to have it. So it got shown in 2 back-to-back shows. Next. This is I Protest, and I found this strange little, I don't know what you would call it. It was a container, something must have been shipped in it, something delicate because it was obviously well protected. And I painted it, it was one of those gunmetal gray type of things, and I painted it hot pink. I knit a pussy hat for it because I had certainly knitted enough of my own pussy hats to wear to different times when I was protesting. And so this is how the outside of this piece is. Next. So it was interesting because I just realized when I put together this slideshow that in fact I had done this once before, which was to have one book go to the left and one book go to the right. Hadn't really noticed I'd done that before, but what this is are photographs of all different protests from all over the world by women. And so it was quite interesting seeing what they were protesting about and the photographs that went back probably close to 100 years. So this is, I protest, but I'm not alone. Next. This is Mend, and this is very personal. I had a eye affliction, if you will. I had double vision on and off for over a year. It was challenging. And every doctor I saw tried a different test, whether it was a heart doctor or somebody that was a neurologist or, eye doctors, lots of eye doctors. Nobody could figure out what was wrong. And so my eye doctor finally gave up and sent me to Mass General. And this is really the short version of the story, but they said, well, the doctor you're going to see is busy at the moment. He's gotten tied up, but an intern will look at you and she will tell him, what her opinion is. She looked in my eyes, and I'm saying looked in my eyes as in with no equipment whatsoever, and said, I know what that is. We can fix it. Hmm. So this is after having every test known to mankind. She just looked in my eyes. So the doctor came in and he said, oh yes, we can repair that. And so I had 2 operations. Well, one was really to, take the photographs to make sure they knew where they were going. And the second was the actual operation, which was 6 hours. The interesting thing was the surgeon, and my husband teases me about this all the time, was absolutely the most handsome man I have ever seen in my life. And so the friend who had driven me to all of these extra tests at Mass General said to me, anytime you need to come back, let me know. Okay, so I always had a ride. But the funny thing was at the end of the whole thing, he came in to make sure I was all right in the recovery room. And I said, I have a really strange request. Can I have the images? And he said, absolutely, and wrote down my email address. And I thought, oh yeah, I'll see those, I'm sure. I got home that afternoon, and in fact, there they were. The images were there. So this book is rare because it not only shows my brain, such as it is, but there are 2 copies because I gave him one. That was my thank you to him. An aside that's kind of interesting, if you look at all the little, I don't know, capillaries and all the different parts, you'll find that so many of those little red lines kind of go nowhere. So more information that I needed to share, but it's kind of interesting to me. So this is Mend. And the cover is made up of all of the different medications they had given me. Next. This is a deleterious effect on families, and this is a scroll book, and it sits in this box, and there are little vials of dried roses and little vials of the parts that were punched out. And again, this is about loss and about families not having members who have been lost to COVID. So this is, to me, it's quite an emotional piece. Next. And this is when I really want to stretch it. These are about the suffragettes, and the piece is about 8 feet long. And each of those cyanotypes on the bottom row are famous suffragettes. So their name is stitched onto the bottom, and it's about the famous women. But the row on the top are just photographs of women of the era who were also part of the suffragettes. They didn't make the history books, but they did change things. And so it recognizes both the women that you might know their names and those that you surely don't. And the last one is Pin Money. I'm one of those people who has worked part-time jobs of every ilk, and mostly for nonprofits. I was working for the New Hampshire Historical Society at this point, and by the back door, they would put anything they were going to trash, and you could take anything you wanted. So one day there was this huge bank ledger. And I said, you're trashing this? And they were like, yeah, we don't want it. If you want it, you can use it. So I have used the pages for decades now, because it's been that long since I worked there. But pin money was always what they called what women earned, because you only needed it to buy pins, or you needed it to buy thread, or, you didn't actually need an income. You just needed a little pin money. The thing that's interesting about the pages, as big as the book is, and as often as I've shuffled through it, I've never seen the name of a woman. So these were the doctors, the lawyers, and all of the important people, but none of them female. So I do have sort of a feminist bent. And I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for doing that. The end.
Oh, Gail, these are gorgeous and really interesting, thought-provoking, beautiful constructions that, well, keep on making those. We need those books.
Thank you.
Fantastic work, Gail. Love it. Resonates really strongly with me.
Yeah.
I really love another thought that I don't know if you've had, but the very first one with the perforations, it almost leaned towards a hanging Chad.
Hanging Chad.
Yeah.
I don't know to anyone else that they were almost had a political component.
Yeah.
Yeah. Powerful.
Sort of lives hanging in the balance.
Yeah. And also, again, it's the shed of humanity. It's not only literally, but figuratively, this idea of the collecting of these sheds, like when we go to the grocery store and they're mining our data via the Stop and Shop, members card. There's sheds of different concepts going on, and I just love the idea of collecting all the little pieces and making them part of it. Yeah, fascinating. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you, Gail. Really great to get to know you and see you and know your eyes are good now.
Yeah.
That's great. Gosh, thank you everyone for sharing and taking the time. Nancy, thank you for stepping in and being our technological support system.
It was my pleasure. It was really a great presentation.
Oh, it really
Thank you
was.
so much.
So April the 8th is our next show and tell. And we have Suzette Dorso is going to present. Frances Hamilton is going to present. And a new member, fairly new, Pamela Wright. So I'm excited to get to know everybody a little bit better. So much inspiration today, everyone. Got lots of great ideas going.
Oh, yes. So inspiring. I love this group. I hardly ever make books, but I love books. And thank you so much for sharing and taking the time. And
Thanks so much for all your hard work, everybody, and the artists. The work is so inspiring. It's fantastic. I can't wait to continue making books immediately.
yeah. Thank you so much. I will see you hopefully on April 8th. New faces, old faces, older faces, and we'll see you then.
And thanks, Carolyn, for what you're doing. We appreciate that too.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not at
Thank
all.
you, everyone.
My pleasure.
Wonderful stuff.